Welcome to another edition of the Tragedy into Triumph podcast, where we believe that our struggles, our adversity in life is there. It's part of the human experience, but it's there to point us to our greater need, a need that points directly to God, a God that can transform everyday tragedies into real triumph in our lives, that gives us the ability to have hope and a future, as the word says. And that's what today's show is about. It's about overcoming, and not just overcoming, but finding triumph in the midst of the struggle, and in the midst of finding triumph, to be able to speak up and to stand up for the things that we know are true. So we say all the time at Tragedy into Triumph that if we have triumph, we have to talk about it. And that's why we're thrilled today to have 12-time All-American swimmer Riley Gaines from the University of Kentucky with us today. So Riley, thank you for joining us.
Man, well, thank you. The honor and the pleasure is mine. I'm super excited for this conversation. And of course, I cannot wait to be with you guys in just a few short months.
Yeah, it's going to be November 4th, 7 p.m. It's going to be awesome. So Riley, anybody that follows you knows you. The events of March 2022, all of a sudden catapulted you into the public eye. And I'm sure it's a ride you never saw coming. You never dreamed, what would happen after that fateful day. But I think it might be interesting for us to kind of go back before that to a young girl in Gallatin, Tennessee, growing up, and maybe to kind of look at what was it that gave you the strength that day to stand up? So how did God shape your faith in your early life?
Oh, man, I love this. Well, let me tell you, I have been so blessed my entire life to have such a phenomenal family structure. That's what I accredit so much of who I am to, are my two amazing parents who really brought me and my siblings up in the church. Grew up going to Old Hickory Church of Christ. Me and my siblings were the youngest one in the congregation by probably 60 plus years. The amount of visitor cards in the back of the pews that we would, play tic-tac-toe or whatever we possibly could to distract us from the message when we're 10 years old, whatever it is certainly ungodly. But let me tell you, as I've gotten older, of course, go off to college, really the first time you're on your own to live out your faith journey. I am so grateful for the backbone that really my parents instilled in me and my siblings. So that first and foremost, you mentioned kind of the progression of who I am, how I got to where I am. Of course, I started sports when I was young. I come from a family of athletes. My dad, he was a professional football player. He played with the Eagles. My mom, she's a Division I softball player. All my uncles went on to win Super Bowls, big sports family. Wow. And so sports, or I guess really not playing sports, that wasn't an option for me and my siblings. Started swimming when I was pretty young, stuck to it. Of course, got to the point where you begin to get recruited for college. Truth be told, really could have gone anywhere in the country to continue my athletic career, but I knew I wanted to stay in the SEC. Objectively the best athletic conference.
Amen to that, no doubt.
Isn't that the truth? So ended up taking a trip to University of Kentucky kind of on a whim. This was not a place I thought I was interested in. But I fell in love. I fell in love with the campus, the team, the resources that they poured into us outside of even just athletics, into our academics, into our service, both things that really mattered to me. And so committed there. And I mentioned kind of being on your own in that faith journey. Again, this was my first time being away from my parents. No one was forcing me to go to church. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. I didn't have to go to VBS anymore. Of course, I was older at this point. And I got there. We moved into college the summer before freshman year actually started. So the June of, let's say, I think it was 2018 when I went off to school on my own. Had a few months where school, again, it wasn't in session, but we were already training at full capacity. And so in those months, I thought to myself, Sunday was our only day off of swimming. We're practicing for 4 hours on Saturday. We're practicing morning, night, every other day of the week. I was exhausted. I thought, well, it doesn't really matter if I sleep in on Sunday mornings. It's my one day to do it.
Sure.
And then school started back up. I lived like that for probably 2 months. And I just felt this, almost like this emptiness, right? There wasn't a lot of satisfaction in doing what I did. I had great friends. I had a fantastic coach. I was doing well in my sport. I was doing well academically, but still there felt this emptiness. Something didn't feel satisfied within me. Got plugged in with a church. And let me tell you, I think to go through that process on your own, get plugged in, a part of Devo groups, whatever it is, that's, I think, when I was really shaped and developed and molded as a Christian. And again, entirely on my own at that point, which I will say I had fantastic friends to bring along with me. My husband, obviously my boyfriend at the time, he was from England, where, of course, I wouldn't say of course, but I think it's the stat is like 5% of people in England go to church. So church wasn't a big part for him growing up, had been baptized when he was younger. But to develop personally and individually, and then to develop together too, was pretty powerful and special. And now here we are, married for over 3 years, and we still continue to grow together.
How about that? I read just the other day, it's kind of cool in England, there's a big surge of young people coming back to the church. I thought that was kind of cool, and coming back to religion. So that as a sidebar, I just thought that was super cool. It's interesting because it's kind of a little bit of me too. I was recruited to play basketball Division II. I played 1 year at Ohio Christian University and then got married, and everything changed in my life. But I went in the Army instead. I always wanted to join the Army. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. I'm 53. I was in during the first Gulf War. And I grew up in a Christian home, but man, did I ever stray from that. I have this horrible story of a lot of things that I wish I could take back. But I can tell you this, as a guy in his 20s, when it became real to me, that moment of, I'm not hanging on to anybody else's faith, but this is something I want for my life, is a defining moment that really shaped who I am today. And it's got to become, you've got to own it. You've got to make the decision, right? Or else it'll never happen.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. It's hard to have that testimony without being tested in that way. So entirely, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're Tragedy into Triumph's all about overcoming adversity. So what difficulties, adversity did you overcome in life prior to March 2022? And the reason I think that's important is because everything shapes and molds us in our life. So charting a course as to, people that followed you, what was there in your life that gave you some strength to say, hey, God's led me through some things, or I can trust God, or I can be vocal here. What adversity happened in your life prior to March 2022?
Well, again, I'm so grateful and blessed to have had from the beginning a fantastic familial structure. I've always had fantastic friends, great people in my life who I call my anchors, right? Yeah. People who kind of keep you grounded. I've really leaned on those people my entire life, but I think a lot of my adversity comes from playing sports, especially at the level in which I was competing at the highest level. When you're at the Olympic trials with Michael Phelps at 15 years old, you are thrusted into a pretty intense, vigorous, relentless environment where it's either, no pun intended, sink or swim. And so it requires a lot of you. Of course, the time that you put in, the personal sacrifice, the social sacrifice that you have to make. I didn't get to have sleepovers with my friends on Friday night because guess what? There was practice at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning. You didn't get to go to prom with your friends because, again, you had a swim meet that weekend. You didn't get to go on family vacation because, God forbid, you took a week off of your sport. That would, in a sport like swimming, that could debilitate the rest of your season if you took a week off. So there was so much personal sacrifice to be able to compete and succeed in the way that I wanted to. But I was willing to do this. I knew it was going to take that. I knew that level of grit, tenacity, resiliency, setting goals and working to achieve those goals all of those things I knew I was willing to do because I knew I had to do them. And I think all of those things that I had no idea at the time would be useful, I guess, skill sets to develop outside of my sport. I had no idea those would translate beyond athletics. Of course, I thought it was isolated to just swimming. That's where I needed my leadership skills. That's where I needed to be a team player. That's where I really needed to understand how some things were bigger than just myself fighting for my team, being a team player. Oh my gosh. But I was so wrong in assuming that, the buck stops there. When I graduated in 2022, I thought I would carry on with the life that I had planned for me, which would entail dental school. I was enrolled in dental school after undergrad, actually set to specialize in endodontics. I didn't imagine, of course, I knew some of the skill sets would roll over, but I had no idea the level of which really I think they were more valuable. All the things that swimming taught me, the skills, the assets, it was more valuable post-swimming than it was when I was swimming. The stakes were higher at that point. And I didn't realize that until I was in the middle of what I have even still currently find myself in the middle of.
Yeah. It's really interesting too, especially for young people listening, because, hey, every coach tells you these skills that we're developing, they're going to take you through life. And everybody's always like, yeah, whatever. But sure enough, that's exactly what happened in your life. It prepared you for this moment, didn't it?
That's it. And I saw recently there was an Ernst & Young study that said 94% of female C-level executives, so of course CEOs, CMOs, COO, CFO, whatever it is, 94% of those women in those positions were female athletes. And again, I think that's just a testament to, number one, how valuable playing sports are to life beyond athletics, and two, how much employers really seek that out. That really shapes you into this well-rounded individual, is the experience that I've seen, of course, in athletics and beyond. So no doubt.
That's good. I had the privilege of coaching high school basketball in the state of Ohio and won 2 state titles with my high school basketball team back to back. Went to the Final Four, 3 times and won it twice. And it was girls high school basketball. So I've got 3 daughters in my family and 1 son. But I got to coach 2 of my girls. And just the other day, Riley, one of the players on that team texted me. We had 7 principles to live by. And she said, every day I work through these principles every day in life in real estate. Now, she said they shape every decision that I make. So, those things, even for parents listening, it's not a bad thing to get your kids into sports. It's going to help shape their character and help make them better people, right?
And it speaks to the value of a good coach.
Yeah.
So you should feel proud
of yourself
for instilling in those values. No doubt.
Yeah. It's been certainly great. So you had all the accolades. You'd been in swimming, since when did you start swimming? What age?
4 years old.
4 years of age. That's incredible to me. That's incredible. So do you still enjoy swimming, by the way, just a sidebar?
You know what I do? I enjoy staying fit, whether it's running, lifting. I just did, the viral challenge that's been going around right now, which is the 100 push-ups, 50 pull-ups. They say complete it in 5 minutes, although now 36 weeks pregnant at the time of this filming, that felt a bit ambitious. So I gave myself 10 minutes. I just recently swam Alcatraz at 7 months pregnant. So dropped off at the prison, swam the pretty treacherous and very, very cold 2 miles back to shore to the San Francisco Bay. Wow. I love a challenge. I love when someone tells me, you can't do that, especially being pregnant. It's like, watch me. I think I can.
Awesome. Yeah, that is awesome. That is incredible. And quite honestly, a testimony, I think, to the character that God has given you. If we go to the events of March 2022, in just a snapshot, Was that a tragedy in your life? In the moment, did it feel like a tragedy? Does it still feel like a tragedy, or is it something totally different in your life?
At the time, going back to March of 2022, I think of myself on that podium, to kind of paint the picture pretty clearly for you, standing next to a 6'4" man who declared himself to be a woman, although there was really nothing womanly about him, who had just won a national title. The day before, we tied in the 200 freestyle. I was denied the trophy despite going the exact same time, down to the 100th of a second, as the NCAA claimed it was necessary that he got to hold the trophy when pictures are being taken. Sharing my spot on the podium, again, this man towering over me. 8-9 inches taller than me. I think back to how I felt in that moment. And I do believe I thought of it as a tragedy. I thought to myself, no one, no girl, no woman should ever have to face the level of humiliation, whether it was, of course, in regard to being denied our rightful recognition on the podium, but humiliation also extending beyond that in the locker room, the violation that we felt there, the betrayal that we faced from, again, people who claim to be protecting us, our leaders and our universities, at the institutional level, whatever it was. I thought no girl should have to go through that. And of course, I still believe that to this day, but my perspective has certainly shifted on how I view myself, how I view other people in this situation, because I don't look at myself as a victim. I think, again, as an athlete, as someone who is deeply committed to success in whatever realm that means, I don't like to look at myself as a victim. I don't often do that. It's not easy for me to do that, to be honest with you. My perspective has shifted now to where it sounds weird to say it, but I am so grateful, truthfully, for the situation that happened. Again, that's not to say that it should have ever happened, or that I'm grateful for the personal benefits that I have reaped from this, but more so that this situation, the stark contrast in the male standing next to me, this picture that really went viral. I'm so grateful how this sparked a conversation that otherwise I think we would have seen people continue to remain silent on. We reached this point after this. I know I personally reached this point where I felt so guilty by even participating in this farce, knowing I have a younger sister, knowing at the time I could only hope to have a daughter of my own one day. And now, again, here I am 3 years later, where we're expecting a little girl in just a few weeks, which feels very poetic, by the way. It was that moment that lit this fire under me and so many others into no longer being willing to stay quiet, to say what everyone has known to be true since the beginning of time. It goes back to the first book, literally, like he made them male and female intentionally and uniquely in his perfect image. And how amazing is it that we have a creator who doesn't make mistakes, to be able to publicly declare that. It makes me grateful for the situation that we faced, weirdly enough. That being said, of course, it has been my mission to make sure no other girl, no other woman, no other person has to face that level of betrayal and discrimination like we as Division I female swimmers had to face.
Yeah, that's great. The detractors would say, Riley is just, she's angry and bitter. She should have competed better. Or you just fill in, all
Totally.
of those things. So I'm interested, the fact that you became so vocal about this, did your faith play an aspect in you speaking up about it? And then second, for anybody that says that speaking truth is hate speech or hateful, how do you counteract that and weave that into your faith? I think because I think people want to speak, but everyone is worried about, well, I'm going to be branded, or people are going to, what are they going to say about me? So I think there's a perspective you could really help people understand there.
When I think of I'll answer the second part first of how do you kind of navigate this in a world where we're called, I mean, horrible names, right? Like
Yeah.
transphobic, homophobic, racist. I mean, they will throw literally anything your way to deter you from speaking the truth. And it just reminds me of verses like Ephesians 4:15, right? Speak the truth, but speak the truth in love. And that is entirely the position that I've taken.
Mm.
I mean, you listen to any of my comments or interactions or how I have tried to conduct myself over the past few years, and it's it's very easy to see like where I'm coming from is not a place of ill will or hatred or animosity towards any one person or group of people. It's really not. Again, it's a place out of protection, out of understanding fairness, of course, safety, fighting for God's creation, biological reality for that matter, right? Like objective truth,
Sure.
as well as biblical truth. And so again, there are certain verses I look to when I kind of get down, and it's easy to do. And that kind of leads me to the first part of that question of how did my faith kind of impact me speaking out, and what has that looked like since? Again, I go back to, I mean, I was a 21-year-old college girl at the time, right? No one wants to read the horrible headlines about yourself.
Sure.
Even just at the time of this recording today, there was a pretty horrific New York Times piece that came out about me. I mean, totally dishonest, so many false like depictions in this article. No one wants to read these things. They say that I've built my entire brand on being offensive and I mean, just crazy, outlandish things that I will say the majority of American, really globally, majority of people see through at this point.
Yeah.
But even still, it's hard to read that. And being a 21-year-old girl, I really struggled. But I'll tell you, my perspective again, it didn't take very long for my perspective to shift and to really understand. And again, this goes back to being so grateful for the structure, the foundation that my parents really helped lay for me, that I was then able to take out and continue developing on my own and with those people in my life around me when I went off to college. It didn't take long for my perspective to shift to understanding that I'm not fighting for anything of this world. We are only here on this planet for such a short blip of time when we're talking about eternity. And that's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for the hope and the promise of eternal life. That makes it easy. I have people all the time who say, how do you handle the backlash? And at this point, my answer is easily. And I really mean that. I do it with a smile on my face because I know my intentions. I know what I'm fighting for. I know why I'm doing what I do. It's not because of selfish intent. It would be a lot easier for me to continue on with my life and leave all this behind. I've been so blessed to have a husband who, again, I mean, he works hard to provide, to do what he does with a little girl on the way. I don't want to put her in harm's way or to subject her to the scrutiny that I have been under these past few years. It would be so easy to leave all of that in the past. But I understand what's at stake if we don't continue to loudly and unabashedly proclaim the goodness of the Lord and the truth. And again, the truth in love.
That's right. Have you heard that Winston Churchill quote about enemies? It is awesome. About, if you have enemies, good, at least you stood for something in your life. What a great quote that is.
It's true.
It is. It is very true. And so the adversity in your life, even post, is, the New York Times articles, just fill it in with the name calling and right all the way down the line as far as the way people have treated you since.
Totally.
So how do you wrestle with speaking the truth, but speaking it in love? How do you wrestle with that? In a world today in which love is just acceptance, love isn't telling you things that you need to hear. It's just telling you what you want to hear. That's love today, right? How do you wrestle with that?
There are certain passages that I think back to because again, I will say it is something that I have found myself to struggle with over the past few years, where it's hard for me to put myself in someone else's shoes, especially on this topic. Like, it's so entry level, it's so common sense. How are there people who can outwardly disagree with what I'm saying? All I'm saying is that there are two sexes and you can't change your sex, and each sex is deserving of equal opportunity, of privacy, and of safety. It feels like we learn that. It's not even really something you learn in school. Like, it's just kind of innately ingrained into us as human beings, not even just human beings, like primal animals understand this to be true. Like, it's a matter of fact. How are there some people who don't understand this?
Yeah.
But I remind myself of verses, or I guess let's say books of the Bible, like First John, right? The adulterous woman, the woman who's sentenced to be stoned. Of course, she's there. The soldiers are there. Jesus appears and he says, "Those without sin cast the first stone."
Sure.
And to me, that's, of course, his perfect depiction of grace. But I think our society tends to leave out what happens next in the story. They would love it if it ended there, right? You see commercials like it happened at the Super Bowl last year, the "He Gets Us" commercial. And it's got these people who, depicted as these Christ-like figures washing the feet of sinners outside of Planned Parenthoods or abortion clinics or whatever it is. And I struggled when I saw this commercial because I knew that to be biblically true. But that's not where the story ends. Jesus then says to the woman, "Now go and sin no more." Yeah. And that is him, of course, leading with grace, but always, never faltering. He's always landing with the truth. And so, again, that's how I try and approach this conversation. I think something that we don't do well enough on our side, and I say our side, not even necessarily as Christians. I guess as Christians, but as conservatives too. Like, we don't do a great job of listening to the other side, I feel like, all the time. Granted, there is a lot out there where it's hard to listen to, and you're talking to people who, again, don't approach conversations in good faith. But if we allow ourselves to listen and respond, I think ultimately that's how we persuade. That's how we get people on our side. That's how we're able to effectively stand firm in the truth. And so I resort back to passages like that, and it helps, again, keep me grounded. And it's it's like a playbook. And if there's one thing as an athlete I can understand, although didn't play football, again, my whole family did, is a playbook. So, and that's what the Bible is.
That's good. That's good. And it's interesting. It's applicable at every stage, at every moment in life, even if it's the year 2025. It's applicable at every point in our lives. There are biblical concepts and truth that really do shape us and guide us, and can not just change our lives, but if we'll let them, they can shape others' lives through us too. So
that's it.
I think that's one of the things that Tragedy into Triumph, from our side, we admire so much about you, is the impact, just the ripple effect that your decisions, your desires to honor God with your life, that just the ripple effect that they're having, and how it is actually changing our world today. It's bringing common sense back. It's bringing an approach that says we maybe we went a little too far. We kind of lost our way a little bit. So we're very grateful that the Lord enabled you to have a voice, and from our side, we want nothing but to see that voice increase and for more people to pay attention. So I'm thinking, because, again, high school basketball coach of girls and 3 in my family, right? So I'm thinking for a young lady, a young lady that's trying to figure life out, that maybe is an athlete, what advice would you give to her?
I think first and foremost is to understand that every single person has a circle of influence. This took me a while, because I thought you had to, especially to make change on the national level, which was really what I set my sights at, like right out the gate, is how do we change this so no one has to face this? I was under the assumption that you had to have, hundreds of thousands of followers. You had to have a big platform, whatever it was, to really be able to enforce change. And I was so wrong. All I was at the time was a girl with a story and a voice who was willing to tell that story. And what I found in doing that was it was far more infectious than someone who already had built and had a developed platform, because it was real, it was genuine, it was authentic. So understand every single person, especially those young women who are a part of teams, right? You've got a group of girls around you, you go to school, you've got classmates, whatever it is, you have a circle of influence. Use it. Use it to, again, be unashamed, to be unapologetic, to be unwavering in your beliefs. And I think what you will find in doing that is that courage, it certainly is contagious. It sounds pretty cliche, but I learned that early on too. One person willing to say something, it could inspire three more, and those three more could individually inspire three more. And it really is this awesome like ripple effect where it inspires and influences a nation. And that's what we've seen. So
Yeah.
that would be my message to young girls. And don't feel like you have to apologize. That's something we see often, I think, again, specifically in young women, is they almost feel like they have to be apologetic, especially in approaching these cultural conversations. And I was in that boat too, where initially I would start the conversation with essentially saying, I'm sorry, I feel this way, but we as women, we don't have to apologize for feeling the way that we do, especially when it comes to the feelings of vulnerability and humiliation and violation, when it comes to this topic in particular.
That is so good. I think even of parents that would be listening, you've referenced it so many times. That you had this strong, upbringing. You had faith was a part of your lives. You had parents who were shaping and guiding. And I would just say to parents, don't stop. Be involved. Keep encouraging your kids to stand up for the truth, and
100%.
and not just to speak about it, but to live it, to actually live it out in their daily life, and to make a difference in somebody else's life as well.
100%.
Yeah.
That is where I believe there's the ability to have the most influence in a child's life is in the house. And what you see on a day-to-day basis based on your parents. Yeah. I've lived it. That's certainly what I believe, and my siblings as well. And I couldn't be, especially as I've gotten older, now living, with my husband. We have this marriage, a daughter on the way. I've been able to learn from my parents. I've seen the good parts. I've seen the bad parts, things we don't want to implement, things we do. So 100% be that influence as mom and dad for your kids, because they're watching, whether you realize it or not.
They are. Well, you've referenced Ephesians. You've kind of referenced 1 John as well. What is there a Bible verse? Some people have like, this is my life verse. Is there a life verse that you have, or one that's always a go-to for you?
My favorite verse, it always has been. I remember the first time I heard it when I was in church and the big kid service, the adult service when I was little. And it was Romans 8:18, which is, for our present sufferings aren't worth comparing to the glory that will be revealed in us. Yeah. And I remember hearing this verse and I loved it when I was younger, because I pretty strictly applied it to swimming. It was kind of like the swimming reference for me, right? Like our present sufferings, to me, that was the practice. Those were the sacrifices that I mentioned. That was the time that you put in. Those were the present sufferings. But it paled in comparison when you broke a record, or when you win a best time, or you won a championship, or whatever it was. It made all of the suffering was worth it. It paled in comparison. It's so much so that verse is actually ingrained in one of my SEC championship rings, which happened, far prior to the situation that we faced in March of 2022. But now, again, that verse is so much more applicable in my life now, right? Like the present sufferings, it's the backlash, it's the name calling, it's the violence that I have found myself subjected to, physical violence. Even still, pales in comparison when you know what you're fighting for, and more importantly, who you're fighting for.
Yeah.
Knowing that my husband and I, God willing, everything goes as it's intended to. We'll have a daughter in a few weeks. That's who I'm fighting for at this point. It's her. It's the world that she will grow up in. It makes every single negative thing or perceived negative thing worth it. So I would say the Bible verse that that really has felt like my life verse that I've loved for so long is Romans 8:18.
That's good. That's good. It's like Galatians 6:9. We'll reap a proper harvest if we don't give up, if we don't quit, right? Don't become weary in the habit of doing good, for you'll reap a proper harvest at just the right time. And that's the thing everybody always forgets, is that we always reap what we sow, but it's always a different season. It's never in the moment, right?
Never.
Yeah. Even the way God is expanding your reach into the world, he's doing that in later times. He didn't start that back in 2022. He's given you even a greater platform. And as we're faithful in little things, God gives us greater things. So on behalf of Tragedy and Triumph, we want to say thank you. Thank you for not being a victim. Everybody has a choice. We can be a victim or a victor. And we believe that through Jesus Christ, there is the possibility and availability to be a victor in this life. So thank you so much for joining us, for just spending a little bit of time with us. And for everybody listening, November 4th, in Mount Vernon, Ohio, Mount Vernon Nazarene University at 7 p.m. You can come. It's free. You can come and join us. If you can't make it here locally, you can register for the simulcast, and all of that information is at tragedyandtotriumph.com. So thank you so much, Riley, for giving us just a little bit of your time, especially with everything else you have going on and this great addition coming to your family.
Oh, please. Well, thank you guys. I cannot wait for November. So thank you.
Thank you.
We started in 2004 as an organization. We got to the point where we were barely making it. I'm just praying to the Lord, I don't know how I'm going to balance the budget. And we found by partnering with Christian Healthcare Ministries that we could accomplish a great benefit to our employees. And the way it was put together, it was basically zero out of pockets for the employees.
Immediately, we saw the benefit that it was to us. When we started sharing our experience, more employees started to join, and now I think we're about 80%. This has allowed us to provide an excellent benefit and be good stewards of God's provision.
If this partnership would not have happened in 16, we never would have grown.
I will tell you the truth, I don't think we would be here if it wasn't for Christian Healthcare Ministries.
Not only is it biblically based, but it works, and it works well. It's just been phenomenal.